One more week, one more candle. The market is forming an interesting pattern ahead of the election. We're also going to talk about this groundbreaking news. The Central Bank of Canada is pushing for cryptocurrencies. So we're going to talk about that coming up after the intro. What's up, guys? This is JC, and welcome to the Wealth Engineering channel. The more you pay attention to, the more aware you become. And in this channel, we pay attention to stocks, crypto, real estate, business to find the best place to grow your portfolio. If this is something that interests you, make sure you go bullish on the like button, subscribe, and click the bell. The first Sunday of every month, we look at the market and do a monthly forecast. And every Sunday after that, we follow up on this prediction to see if we're on or off target. So we had some more candles for this week. Let's review and predict what's going to happen for next week. I want to start first with the DXY. Again, as you know, whenever the DXY is going up, it's bad for crypto, bad for gold. And whenever it goes down, it's good for crypto, good for gold. And look at that. We're looking at the weekly channel. We're looking at the weekly chart. And we had a giant candle right here in the DXY. And it's interesting because it almost went exactly like the action that happened for last week. So the candle, it's still smaller than the candle from last week, but it was almost, in terms of range and movements, it was the exact same range. So, and that's the interesting pattern that the entire market is doing as a whole. It's been floating on a kind of like a continuation pattern. And I think this is happening because of the election. Let's just jump straight to the S&P 500. So the S&P 500, last week we were saying that we're expecting a challenge in this next resistance. It almost went there, but at the end, it actually went down. Now we're actually getting a different pattern forming, and we can actually see it better on the hourly chart. Look at that right here. So we had a uptrend going up. It almost reached this line right here where we're expecting it to reach, but now it's starting to form enough candle to say that we have a legit pattern forming, and we can expect next week we're gonna be floating around this price area right here. So that means the stock market as a whole might be bearish in the first 2 to 3 days of the week. So we're gonna see how that goes. Canadian dollar. Whenever the US dollar goes up, Canadian dollar goes down. And this week we've seen, just like we were expecting it, we're expecting a little bit of rise, but the last days we went down, and the market is really forming this downtrend right here. You can even put this line right in. That's what the Canadian dollar is doing. I think we're actually in a continuation pattern in this two range right here. So it's possible that we might even reach this zone right here, or we need more data to validate that. Or what's also possible is we might be forming a triangle as well. We might be forming something like this. And that's going to be an interesting pattern, because eventually around the election time, we might have an explosion from one direction or the other. So, and that is consistent. That's something that is consistent in the market. It seems that the market is not sure where to go, and it's doing a continuation pattern to see ahead of the election. So we're going to wait and see what's going to happen as time goes on. Same thing for crude oil. It's been floating in the same area that we had established in the last 2 weeks. So the market has been consistent in this area as well. Here's gold. Now, gold has been bearish, and now what was previously the support has become the resistance. And now we have an interesting thing going on the EMA 21 on a daily chart. We're having price action below the 21 area, so that is also a bad sign. But there is some momentum going up. Let's see what's happening on the other indicators. Daily, we're having this bearish trend starting. That's what the ADX is forming on a daily chart, bearish trend with a strength going down. So that's going to be interesting to see. MACD, MACD is again it's not strong at all. So RSI is still below 50, so that's also not very bullish for the for gold. And we'll see how it goes. Let me see if I can get a clearer pattern. There you go. So you can see that the price is it's really undecisive and it's going sideways. And I think that this has been definitely consistent throughout this week. We have seen patterns developed on sideways level, and as we're getting closer to the election, this is definitely going to it's setting up that way. It's setting up to itself for a major move. So it might be going sideways now, but I think we're gonna have a major move by election time. And here is the BLX chart that we're studying for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, again, last week was very bullish for Bitcoin. Now it has settled. It's you guys know how I feel about it. We still need to see this pattern complete. So eventually, sometime in the future, we need to see a break of this pattern so that we can touch at least this area. But so far, I was expecting for this week to see a challenge on this line right here. It was as high as 11,700, almost reached the targeted area. So we'll see if we'll reach that. But based on what I'm seeing right now, we have it seems that it's losing steam. RSI, it's not really pointing up. It's still above 50, but it's not pointing up. ADX is still high, but we are not getting a lot of strength. And me, it's definitely the weekly that stays more. So weekly we're having an opening, but the strength is still relatively low. We need to see a lot more strength, but it's pointing up. So we might definitely still be good to see this challenge right here, to see this line right here. And one of the reason why I was waiting before I can record this video, it's actually to see this pattern right here. We're having an interesting candle forming on Bitcoin right now. And it's almost like a doji candle, but honestly, it's not strong enough. We need to see a bigger wick on the downside and a bigger wick on the upside for a doji candle. And this is a gravestone doji candle, so that means a reversal on the downside. But I need it, and this is on a weekly chart, so it's actually a fairly strong candle, but it's not the movements are not wild enough. So usually in the previous look at this one, for example. This is an example of what I'm saying. Gravestone doji candle with the wick very long when the price are very wild and going volatile. And that's when you have a perfect reversal following that. So we're not seeing that long wick on this candle right here, but it was interesting to see throughout the week the battle, the bulls and bear to battle, and that's why this candle is like this. Eventually it's going to have to make a decision where it wants to go. So we might have maybe some movement towards this line, but to me, I'm still staying bearish overall for Bitcoin, because not on the long term, but not on the short term. Short term, I'm still expecting some move around here. That's what the ADX is showing. But eventually, at some point, we're going to have to start looking into this. And again, maybe it's also staying relatively, maybe also we're waiting for a movement for the election. We don't know how the election is going to affect Bitcoin. And from previous elections, we don't have much data to have a clear analysis on how the election affected Bitcoin, but we do have this data for the stock market, and I'll be making a separate video about that. So now let's jump back to this article that we're talking about. The central bank is making moves to incentivize and accelerate the adoption for digital currency in Canada, and we're talking about the Bank of Canada. Now, what cryptocurrency would they be using? So that's an interesting question. Since the pandemic, people have basically modified the way of shopping online, and they're seeing a huge need for digital cryptocurrencies. So this is how the pandemic is really pushing the society to move forward. And again, if you haven't invested in cryptocurrencies yet, timing is definitely key, especially when we're talking about undervalued assets. This is where we are right now, but if it looks like day by day, government are starting to look into it, and it's going to get more value, more money. And if you want to get something when it's undervalued and sell it when it's overvalued. So right now the government is starting to see the value in digital currency, and this is the Bank of Canada. The question is, which cryptocurrencies are they going to use? In the same article, they're saying that the Bank of Canada has started working on its own digital currency should others become widely used in Canada and erode the central bank's ability to manage monetary policy. So this is going to be very interesting to see, and it's actually not, it doesn't sound very bullish for Bitcoin, but this on the long terms, you guys know how I feel about Bitcoin. If you haven't, make sure you click on the link below. I have a course, the next 10 years in crypto, and I study the chart for Bitcoin for the next 10 years. So make sure you check this out. It's a free course. Or make sure you check out the course, Technical Investor. We go about that in details to make sure you're prepared. What is the biggest wealth transfer to come? And cryptocurrencies, they're going to be big in the next decade. So the Bank of Canada is starting to see the value of that. So I wanted to share this article with you and make sure that you're taking action. You're taking action to understand this, because one way or another, these will change your life. One way. So you got to make sure that you can profit from this as well. And we're going to see how the Bank of Canada how the Bank of Canada is going to be invested in cryptocurrencies. We know that China has already have their own digital yen. US is working on this as well. So it makes sense for Canada to be launching in this. But we'll wait and see, and we'll be following on this channel how this develops. Make sure you like and subscribe and click the bell. With that said, talk to you on the next video.